magic for a good blaster at your side.
Welcome to Hokey Religion, the Star Wars podcast. This episode, we're going to talk about the Mandalorian and a bunch of stupid people. This is Tyler.
This is Michael.
Welcome to episode too many, 115. I remembered it as I was forgetting it.
Yeah, that is this show. Remember things as we forget them.
Yep. So, Star Wars does not rage on. It is still a time of suffering in the galaxy.
Star Wars does not rage on. Rage on?
Yes, Ron Jon.
Rage on.
That's the surf brand, right?
Wait, no. Ron Jon.
So close.
Yep. You got it.
Ron Jon is his poor cousin. He runs a fan boat business.
Ron Jon, the popular server. And
No
Ray Jon.
Was Ron Jon a surfer?
I don't know.
Okay.
Don't look at me.
How did Ron Jon get his empire
I don't know.
of billboards? Because I've never actually seen one of the stores.
Is it a store or is it a brand of clothing?
It's Ron Jon Surf Shop. Surf Shop. Ron Jon Surf Shop is the thing.
Oh, so it is a shop.
It's founded in New Jersey.
Of course it was. So much surfing happens in New Jersey.
So it was founded in 1950. Welcome to Star Wars Podcast. So Ron Jon was founded.
We're talking about the Ron Jon Surf Shop here tonight.
It was founded in 1959 in Ship Bottom, New Jersey. This is a made up story. It specializes in surfing and bodyboarding equipment, and their Cocoa Beach, Florida store is currently the largest surfing shop in the world. Those are all the billboards I see in Florida for the Cocoa Beach Ron Jon Surf Shop.
Right.
I've never actually seen it.
Me neither.
It's just billboards. It's
I've
large.
never been to Cocoa Beach. That's probably part of the problem.
Well, Deborah Harvey is the current president.
Deborah Harvey?
If that helps.
Not Deborah Harvey.
Oh no, their stores are closing. So many of them.
Uh-oh.
There's only 13 stores nationwide.
COVID madness.
Well, yep, that's how we all feel. What? No. The store in Cocoa Beach, Florida operates 365 days a year, 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day.
52,000 square feet of retail space.
No.
It's a small mall for surfing that is open like a Walmart.
I could go 12 a.m. on Christmas Day and get a bodyboard if I wanted to.
If you want to fight the throngs of people, sure. I need a tank top now!
Oh no!
And it's Christmas morning!
My son who enjoys surfing.
My son's going to wake up and need to surf on Christmas Day, and what am I going to do without my tank top? If the guns aren't out, the sun's not out.
I like how that person needs a tank top to watch their son go surfing. Not the son doesn't need anything.
You have to support.
That person is an ally. It's what we call an ally.
Oh no. Don't besmirch the good ally name. Oh, they also have they have a surf museum.
Does it mention Ray Jon at all?
Unfortunately not.
Ray Jon, may he rest in peace. Ray Jon confirmed.
Apparently, the character Ron Jon from Last Airbender was based off of the surfing company.
There's a character in Last Airbender named Ron Jon?
Yes. It's spelled not that way.
Was Little John based off of this person also?
Little known fact, Little John was based off of Ron Jon Surf Shop. He was too small to surf, and that's how he got his name.
Yeah, indeed.
Also what? Well, that's all the Star Wars news we have today. No, there's so few other Star Wars things we can talk about. Like the fact that there's a Bop It coming
Here's something
out.
we can talk about that we didn't think of beforehand. The first chapter of the first High Republic novel came out recently, and I read it.
Wowee!
I can read one chapter, but I can't finish an entire book.
One chapter a year.
One chapter.
You now can't read any of the other books
Exactly.
because you read this
I
preview.
used my quota. Man,
how did you feel about it?
it was good. I like the basic framework of the story is that this is, I mean, I don't have to repeat the whole High Republic thing. Everybody knows that at this point. But the framework of this time period is there's the Jedi Knights way back when the Jedi Knights were pure and they weren't consumed by narcissism and hubris.
Right. When they cared.
Right. And this time period specifically, there was a significant technological disaster. It's been described as.
Yeah, it keeps talking about this giant disaster.
And so these stories take place during that or after that point. That's like a milestone in this time period. And all these stories that we're going to get eventually in comics and books and stuff, they're all going to take place around that. And this first chapter covers that disaster. This is from Charles Soule's book that's supposed to come out in January. I think we talked about this last episode.
Yeah.
Something like that. But anyway, the disaster is a hyperspace accident.
A holdo maneuver. Not on purpose.
Which actually it does raise a good point. How do you navigate in hyperspace? Can you navigate in hyperspace?
Well, you put in the coordinates and you zoop,
put in the quarter
and you go there. Yeah, the heart-shaped bed starts vibrating, and then you tell,
and then you're taking off to hyperspace, baby.
Whee!
At least that's what I tell them.
It'll be over before you know it.
It's a good thing, trust me.
You don't want too much of this.
I
should know.
I don't have enough of this. Yes.
Well, I mean, hyperspace, traditionally, you put in the coordinates and then zoop, you go to that exact spot.
Right. Well, so anyway, the details of the story, summarized, I guess, are there's this cargo ship that is on a, standard hyperspace journey that it does all the time, and there's a bunch of people that it's transporting to who knows where. And a piece of debris, I forget what it was exactly, but a piece of debris shows up in the hyperspace lane, like while they're in hyperspace. Right. And it collides with this freighter, and so now this freighter in hyperspace explodes and separates. And all these various pieces, according to what we've been told, exit hyperspace at different points and hit planets and star bases and all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. Other ships, that kind of thing. So the Jedi are sent to deal with this in whatever way they can, help people, and so forth. So anyway, yeah, how do you... part of that story that it was describing in the chapter was this piece of debris appears and the captain tries to veer around
trying to make a turn, basically trying to avoid it.
So I always thought of hyperspace as like it's like your folding space. You know,
right.
I mean, I don't know exactly how it's supposed to work. Even in the chapter, they're like, nobody knows how hyperspace really works. It just does.
Yeah, the captain kept, like, the internal monologue was continuing to say you can't trust hyperspace. But at that point, I think it was still fairly, I don't know, not crazily new, but it was still just such an unknown thing that even as a captain, you can never trust hyperspace.
Well, I mean, this wasn't that long ago. It was a couple hundred years, wasn't it? This time period before the Old Republic, before.
Right.
Before, I don't know. I want to say Yavin, but
yeah, so the ship basically tore itself apart.
Yeah,
in hyperspace.
So how does that work? How do you travel hyperspace, but maneuver?
Talks about tweaking the left control stick, rotation to the right, and
right, which implies whatever propulsion system you'd have in sublight, the freighter
slipped past the obstacle in their path,
would work in hyperspace too. I don't know. Maybe it is just some kind of, maybe it is literally propulsion faster than light. So it's not like another dimension or anything.
It's just that speed.
Or maybe it is another dimension and you can just navigate differently in the other dimension. I don't know.
But yeah, it is. I mean, because it talks about hyperspace lanes and how those lanes are free of debris.
Well, lanes make sense because that's the whole thing behind like what Han said in A New Hope. You know, it's not like dust and crops. You'll end up
one miscalculation and you end up slamming into an asteroid or whatever.
Right.
So it has, there's hyperspace and lanes. So I feel like you're not folding space and just hopping, going
True.
around what's in between.
That's true.
I feel like you're zipping there through a calculated debris-free area. So I wonder if it is just faster than light speed.
Propulsion, literally being
But
propelled.
yeah, being able to try to maneuver in any of that would just rip your ship apart.
Yeah, any sort of maneuvering, right? Yeah.
Yeah, if it's, just the tiniest bit and you're forever off track.
Right.
Which maybe that's why they,
and in every piece
they ended up getting destroyed.
Yeah, right. Every piece of media that we've gotten so far has kind of implied that once you enter hyperspace, like it's a straight shot until you exit. Because in order to avoid Imperials in books I've read before, in this canon, in the new canon,
right,
you would do like Rebels were doing short jumps. They would short jump to a certain point and then jump from there and then jump from there and jump from there.
Because
and that would decrease
because you couldn't track until
right. That would decrease the likelihood of being tracked because there's so many vectors
Right.
you could end up going that it just eventually becomes impossible to figure out where you could have gone.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, it's weird. I've never thought about that before. But anyway,
because can you get pulled out of hyperspace? Has that ever? I feel like that's been a thing.
yeah. Well, that was my whole.
There's been
We've talked about this before.
gravity wells, right?
Right.
That pull you out of hyperspace.
There was the oh shit. In Legends, there was a ship that generated gravity wells. And I can't remember if that made it over to the new canon or not. I think it did. They were called what
was it? It was in Tarkin, I think. There were interdiction fields.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, so it did make it over.
I remember that being mentioned in Tarkin. I'm looking it up now.
So yeah, that implying
There's
that
an interdictor class Star Destroyer.
Yes,
that had
exactly.
interdiction fields.
That's what I'm thinking of. So it generates these giant gravity wells that basically mimic
Yank you
planets. Well, they mimic planets because big masses like that pull ships out of hyperspace. Like you can't. But then in the sequels, you got like Han and Poe
zipping right up to
right up to planet, like straight into a planet,
Right.
into the atmosphere and everything. And then like Poe doing his light speed skipping in the last movie, just going wherever. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing can pull him out except him pulling the switch. It just didn't make any sense to me how those two things can
I don't know.
coexist. But anyway,
We don't have a lot of
the
science.
the debris that was mentioned in this book, it's not big enough to generate its own gravity field. So it makes
was
sense
just something coming at them.
it makes sense that there's debris in the lane.
They don't know what
that
it
could
was
affect
either,
them.
though.
Right, but maneuvering around it, I just wonder how that's possible.
Because basically what happened in the chapter is the stress of trying to maneuver out of the way
Broke the ship apart.
broke the ship out of hyperspace and like ripped it to shreds.
Right. Which then became a holdo maneuver,
Basically,
essentially.
yeah.
All these different pieces were doing their own holdo maneuver through
Yeah.
hyperspace.
It's like a shotgun blast, but all across the universe.
Right.
Just bits flying out of hyperspace.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and they're all exiting at different points, so some end up where the collision happens, some end up way further, in other places. So anyway, I like the situation.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just have the collision happen though? Why did they have to throw in this piece of
Moving it around,
right?
trying to navigate. I don't know. It's definitely like you were saying, as far as the period goes, it's very interesting. Um,
Yeah.
it's talking about like there's the rim, the inner mid, and finally at the border, what is known as the outer rim.
Right.
These worlds being filled with opportunity for those brave enough to travel the few well-mapped hyperspace lanes leading to them. So it's like anything past the core at this point really hasn't been
Or mid rim, I guess. There's few lanes in the mid rim, but beyond that,
right.
you're on your own pretty much.
It says these worlds are filled with opportunity for those brave enough to travel the well-mapped hyperspace lanes leading to them, though there is danger as well. The Outer Rim is a haven for anyone seeking to escape the laws of the Republic.
Right.
Um,
Right. So at this point,
it's them trying to reach out to the Outer Rim worlds and get them brought into the Republic.
Right.
Through the outreach program called such as the Starlight Beacon.
Yeah, and the Starlight Beacon was a satellite, a station, basically, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's just interesting how it talks about stuff like, order and justice are maintained on the galactic frontier by Jedi Knights, guardians of peace who have mastered incredible abilities stemming from a mysterious energy field known as the Force.
Right.
It's just how new everything feels and sounds.
Yeah.
It's like a
Mhm.
it's like a black and white movie with like when you get the news before the movie starts.
Right.
Where it's like order and justice are maintained on the galactic frontier by Jedi Knights, guardians of peace who have mastered incredible abilities. And then here's your funny movie after the fact. it's like the World War II or the the World War movies that are news that would pop up before old films in
Yeah,
theaters.
the newsreels.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting about that to me too was it's not Guardians of Peace and Justice, it's Guardians of Peace.
Yeah, just peace. Yeah.
Right? There's no justice part. There's no
There's no job.
The Jedi are judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah, there's no assumption that's their responsibility.
Right. So I wonder in this as we go through this time period in media now, I wonder if we'll end up at the end like the Jedi realizing somehow that they need to be more controlling, that they need to exact justice. I wonder, that's when they become more warriors, more, I don't know, proud.
It's just funny too, just like the way it talks about, like, just because of how, again, new and fresh and misunderstood everything is. It's like, the Jedi of the frontier can be the only resource for people with nowhere else to turn. Though the outposts operate independently and without direct assistance from the great Jedi Temple on Coruscant, they act as an effective deterrent to those who would do evil in the dark.
Yeah.
Few can stand against the Knights of the Jedi Order. It's like even like the Sith or anything like that. It's just, those that do evil in the dark.
Yeah.
It's like the Nazis of the world, like of the galaxy.
Right. I wonder do you know if the Great Sith War is still canon at this point?
It's a good question.
Because that would have been before this, if it's in the same timeline. So I wonder if
I don't
like is the
recall
role
that being mentioned.
Is this
ever.
like post-war Jedi, for example?
Yeah, I wonder.
Like these are Jedi that have already had their wartime powers and stuff stripped, and so now their only purpose really is to keep the peace and help their humanitarian workers now, basically.
Yeah. I don't think that has been mentioned at all. That would be really cool if it was, though.
Because I could see that happening. I could see history repeating itself in a way where the Jedi were bred for war. Not bred, I mean, because that wasn't like the first appearance of Jedi back then. But they were warriors then, and then the war ended, they won, and now, what's their purpose? Okay, humanitarian workers. And then that curve starts to go back up again as history progresses, and they become more warrior focused, more judges,
police.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Galaxy. Yeah. Just Galaxy Police.
Just the police department. Oh, we're doing
And then-
social work now too?
Yeah.
All right, bust down the door. Cuff them.
Yeah, and then they end up, where they end
What?
up.
Someone's choking? Shoot them.
And then they end up,
Yeah, then they
the
end up,
ultimate police
then they end
reform.
up shooting everyone.
The ultimate police reform.
Right.
The government kills them all.
Right. They were defunded
Permanently.
permanently.
Yes.
Oh. That's yep, that's exactly what happened.
So these are the kind of questions we ask that we should probably start the show with these answers.
No,
So
Ron
there-
Jon's important.
Ron Jon now? Now it's Bron Jon. We got Ron
that's
Jon,
the paper towel guy.
Ray John, and now we got Bron Jon.
He's the strongest brother. He's the strongest brother that made a paper towel company.
Is the Bron guy related to Mr. Clean? Are they related? Mr. Clean is bald. Mr. Clean has alopecia, right? No, he has eyebrows. Sorry. He's got the white eyebrows, so he doesn't have alopecia.
That's true.
He's just bald.
Can we confirm those are real?
True. That's true. They could be stick-on eyebrows. Mr. Clean has alopecia, and the Bron guy, he's like a lumberjack guy, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is two brothers from the same family. Who's the father of Mr. Clean? I wonder. Who's Mr. Clean's father?
I imagine that
Ajax?
No, if ever the two should meet, it would be the scene from Predator where Schwarzenegger approaches Dylan,
Yeah.
and then they
You son of a bitch.
and then they do their giant muscle like arm grab thing. Then they
Mr. Clean cleans with liquid. Brawny cleans with dry.
together they will I don't know, wet and dry you.
Who would win in a fight between a paper towel and like
Is this what our podcast has become?
what were we talking about? What was I talking
I don't know.
about?
I was trying to look up the Jedi Sith War.
Oh. How did I get to Mr. Clean? What was I talking about?
Ron Jon.
Oh, yes. You're right. That's right. I burn bridges as I cross them, so I can't remember how I got there.
Sometimes you burn the bridge as you're as
As I'm
you're
in the
starting to
middle of
cross it, and then you never make it quite over to the other side.
Wow, I hope I make it.
Apparently, it was mentioned in current canon
The Sith War?
during the Dark Age.
Revan is canon. We know that now, right? Because of Rise of Skywalker?
Yes,
Because there was like a Revan Legion or something like that of Sith troopers?
and Darth Bane
Right.
as well.
I can't remember. Oh, it's great when we
Well,
do
the
research
Jedi
while
Sith
we're
Wars were
recording.
mentioned in the Phantom Menace and the Attack of the Clones.
Because they hadn't seen a Sith since then?
Yeah, so they mentioned it. They have mentioned it in canon, but obviously older canon.
Well, but that's still, if it's mentioned in the Phantom Menace, which, yeah, you're right.
I mean that's current canon.
Right, that's the real canon.
And then
That's true. I
Yeah.
forgot that the Mandalorian Jedi War, that's definitely canon. So, and that took place
Right.
before the Sith War. So, yeah, and this is before the Republic was reorganized, the Sith War. So after the Sith War, the government,
would've
the
been
galactic
before all
government,
this.
yeah, so that would have been before the High Republic. So I wonder, it's very likely that we might get
it'll be interesting to have like
hints to that.
this is like the story of their rebuilding almost.
Yeah. Right. Like what they are now. what they became after what they used to be. Yeah, it'll be really good to get into that. Like I said, I like the setup for the events. I like the setting. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be just having that historical outlook on things.
Yeah,
just like before everything got totally screwed up.
Right.
Just everywhere. Just
right.
Before everything everywhere was broken. Even just seeing like, the core worlds and how they are compared to being this horrible, just political mess.
Right.
And what the Republic looked like and how it functioned.
Right.
Before that also broke down into a horrible mess.
I wonder what the parallel for reality would be. Like, is this a post-war World War II thing? Is this even before that? Is this like would the World War metaphor be for the Galactic Civil War? Maybe. And this is before the World Wars, Like if we're comparing it to world history?
Yeah, maybe.
Like what is this? What is it? Is it
That's a good question.
Is it like feudal ages kind of? Not
really,
really, because there's a central government. Is this like Roman?
Right. Huh. Yeah, I don't know.
Is the Republic Rome at this point? Or no, because the Republic, I guess you could say.
No, you can't build that in a day. So, I don't know. That's all.
Okay. That's been really.
So the fourth Jon brother.
There's 4 of them. Oh no. We got Ron, we got Ray, we got Bron.
Ray, when did
Ed?
Where was Ray Jon?
Jon.
Is that how we started? Was it Ray Jon?
Ray Jon, yeah.
Okay.
Ray.
I've already forgotten.
Ray Jon.
Ray Jon, Ron Jon, and Bron
Jon. We
Jon.
got Ed. Ed Jon.
Not Han Jon.
Oh, Star Wars.
Hey, speaking of other books, much like the
book with words,
much like papers with scratchings on them and ink.
As we learned in the last episode, are only for college educated people.
Correct.
Was that last episode or was that 2 episodes ago?
It may have been 2 episodes ago. A slew of Mandalorian books have been announced. For the Mandalorian, not just like general Mandalorian books. There's an Art of the Mandalorian Season 1 book by Phil Szostak. There is an original novel by Adam Christopher, a visual guide, an Allies and Enemies Level 2 reader, kids 8x8 storybook, and then a junior novelization. Which junior novelization? Is that just a junior version of the Season 1 of the show?
The book is small.
Okay. What's it a novelization of?
The Mandalorian.
The first season?
The show.
Or is it a novelization of the novel that's coming out?
It's the junior version of the novel?
That's what I can't tell. So The Mandalorian is an original novel.
So you're saying it's
novel.
Big Mac and Junior Big Mac.
Right.
Okay.
I wish they called it a Big Mac Small.
Whopper and Junior Whopper. That's what I was. There's no Junior Big Mac. What
no, there's a
Big Mac
a Mighty Mac. What is there? I don't know.
What? It's 5 patties.
What if they made a Big Mac, but it was like a slider? So it was just like tiny circles of bread. Just like there's the 3 little circles of bread.
It's like a bagel chip size thing in the middle.
It's like if you took some bagel bites and stacked them. That's what the Big
Take the
Mac
4th
Small
bagel
would look like.
away. You put that away, and then you stack them.
Right.
So it's 3 bagels and the cheese. I kind of want to do that now. It's like double stuffed Oreos. When you just take the thing off.
Yeah, just make tiny ones. Get a little cookie punch and just.
And you have big stuffed cake, basically.
Right. But yes, there will also be comics coming from Marvel and IDW, and
Mandalorian related comics.
Yes.
The Mandalorian related
And
comics.
magazine, novelty and coloring and activity titles are on the way.
Magazine. Mandalorian hunks. It's all him. He's the only hunk at this point.
Yeah.
It's Jango Fett with his no head.
Oh, no.
Jango Fett
it's-
likes to relax by the fire without his body.
It's just the upside down helmet.
There's nothing in it.
No, it's like the head stump.
Oh. Gross.
It says, in addition, the Mandalorian-inspired comics are coming from from Marvel and IDW Publishing. And magazine, novelty, and coloring, and activity titles are on the way from Titan, Studio Fun, Crayola, Thunder Bay Press, Disney Publishing Worldwide, and Dreamtivity. Younger bounty hunters can look forward to a little golden book and a Screen Comics retelling of Season 1.
Oh, Golden Book. That's cool.
Yeah, a little golden book. They've done those for all the Star Wars movies.
Right. I have them all.
Yeah, my kids have them all. Air quotes.
Actually, I don't have any of the new ones.
Really?
Only the original trilogy and
I might
the
not have
prequels.
Rise of Skywalker, actually.
Because, I mean, honestly, who
Yeah.
cares?
Because Doomcock said it was bad.
Oh, do we have to talk about that now? Is it time to talk about that?
Well, we'll just hold on. There is a
Okay.
Mandalorian original novel coming out, which is very interesting, and apparently it's codenamed,
Mandalorian.
I think, the Sparrow or Sparrow.
Oh, like the weapon. His weapons.
Oh yeah. So people think that it might have to do with the.
Those were called sparrows, right? Or
Yeah.
were they called something else?
I think they were called sparrows. So some think it might have to do with the armorer.
The armor.
The armorer.
Oh.
The
Her.
the what's her face?
The Zabrak? Or her helmet looks like a Zabrak anyway.
Yeah, whatever's under that.
Whistling
that
bird. I was close. It was a bird.
helmet. It was a bird that whistled, much like a sparrow.
Whistling bird. Sparrow? Yes.
I feel like the sparrow was a weapon in something. No.
The sparrow was my house in Betrayal. The game of Betrayal that we're playing.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Din Djarin. Mandalorian armor made whistling birds for the Mandalorian bounty hunter Din Djarin. He subsequently.
Scub squash light.
He
So yeah.
subsequently. He subsequently. Scubs.
Nope. That
He
bridge-
subsequently used whistling
You
birds.
set
to
that
kill
bridge
four
on fire too soon.
Uh-oh. Before I even finished the word. The bridge is the word.
Oh, look, here's a story. Let me just light this match. And, okay, it's on fire. Let me read.
Come on, Sprint. Squadron down. Oh, my college education.
No, but people think it might be about the armorer, which would be interesting because I'm sure
The novel itself being
Possibly.
about- interesting. That would be cool.
Because I mean, obviously for him, we can't have his whole backstory. We can't have like a novel
Yeah.
that gives us any information about him
Right.
because that's the whole point of the show.
Right.
Um,
True.
unless it's just like a adventure with the Mandalorian, which doesn't seem like a very interesting book. I don't know. It could be, but just him running bounties because we can't learn how he became a bounty hunter yet because that's definitely going to be involved in the show. So having, some other interesting character from the show as the setup and to give the backstory and history to, she would be probably the most interesting.
Yeah.
Because she seems like a real badass. What was her signet?
Yeah. I don't know.
Cool.
The armorer.
The amorous? Nope.
The
She's got a helmet. That's what Etsy tells me.
That's on Etsy. You're looking for Star Wars?
Yeah, when I look for Star
On
Wars, I go to
Etsy.
Etsy and then I type in my search term.
No wonder this show is so bad.
Well, I can buy an armorer helmet for $271.61. Why so specific? Did she have she had a signet, right?
Did she? She was also a practical woman who refused to abandon the large cache of armor pieces left behind by deceased or escaped members of the Enclave until she could reclaim what best car she
Well,
could.
I give up and I'm not looking at it again.
Skills and abilities. She can armor. I don't remember her having a signet from what I saw. And
oh, wow. Someone
I would have to read all these words on this page to find out.
and you've already forgotten how to do that.
I think we know by now.
Someone rewatch the show and tell us if she had a signet. Call in to somewhere and then also
call in
now.
If you don't call in now, we'll never know.
Well, speaking of Doomcock.
Good segue.
Yeah, thanks. I try. If you haven't heard, Doomcock says that Star Wars is being erased. You heard that right.
More at 11.
The Doomcock. Don't look him up because he looks like a giant bag of dicks.
The armorer was portrayed by Emily Swallow. So yeah, maybe it's true. Swallow. Wow.
It's close. Birds! There's birds everywhere. You got your string theory wall with just pictures of birds.
It's all the way off the board at this point.
To an actual tree with a bird on it.
See? Bird!
Oh, why is that so funny to me?
Can you do
that? Is like airplane level. Like having a string theory board and then just one string going out to an actual thing like far away.
And that's your see? It connects. And look what's at the end. Like you connected to the thing you want it to be.
Right.
He was the murderer, see? The string connects to him.
The guy with it tied to him. Oh, that's amazing. Anyways, back to Doomcock, who is a YouTube person, who has the Overlord DVD channel. So far, very reliable terms and words here. Doomcock Overlord DVD channel.
On YouTube.
This person, who is always wearing a costume to look like a weird...
It's like Bobo Dr. Doom.
Bobo Dr. Doom. He has reliable information that all of the new trilogy is going to be essentially deleted. That's all. He says there are plans in place which involves the Abrams and Rian Johnson trilogy getting obliterated out of existence like Alderaan. It'll get erased by a bunch of stuff that he comes up with over the course of a 12-minute video. The idea stems from the Rebels episode, so it's hitting
already right away.
It's hitting all of our marks for anger.
Yeah, right. This is just trigger after trigger.
In the season 4, episode 13 installment, also misspelled, titled A War Between Worlds, the concept of the Veil of the Force was introduced, a mystical dimension of the Force that connects all time and space. I have received confirmation from 2 additional sources claiming that this is spot on, that indeed Lucasfilm realizes they have a massive problem on their hands and the Star Wars franchise is all but dead. And despite Kathleen Kennedy's hatred of this idea, Lucasfilm is preparing to render the sequel trilogy null and void.
I love there's a lot to talk about here, but I love just right away the idea that Kathleen Kennedy,
it's her Star Wars.
She's this lone warrior within Lucasfilm. That's
she's like, forcing everyone to make a Star Wars, right. And the Star Wars that she demands be made.
And in their mind, it's Kathleen Kennedy with a gun at Pablo Hidalgo while he's weeping over a page.
Even though he's like barely involved anymore.
Right. Yeah. But he's the architect of all of Star Wars, apparently, behind the scenes.
Yes.
He's weeping over a page as he writes.
Right. Writing a script with his own blood.
Luke stands over Ben Solo with a lightsaber. Oh, no.
Yeah. And then Bob Iger had nothing no say in any of it. The like god of Disney that said whether anything there went, and apparently it's her Star Wars.
So the idea is that the mirrors, the time travel mirrors, basically,
right,
in Rebels, right? That is it. The Emperor that enters the mirrors,
right,
or is it something else?
And that the new
Somebody
trilogy was a one of the possible realities.
It was an alternate universe.
Correct. But the Emperor decides to go home. I don't.
Okay.
And
Full disclosure, we didn't watch the video.
We
started
a good chunk of it, and it was very annoying.
I think we made it 3 minutes in, and it's awful. I mean,
it's real bad.
It's really bad.
You can tell there's a Star Wars fan when they're making sure to mention Rey and Kathleen Kennedy and how much they hate both of them because they're women.
Yes.
And then also mention anything regarding Luke drinking green milk, because that's such an affront to their manliness.
Mm-hmm.
They can't drink milk because that conjures memories of suckling at the teat of their own mother. And you can't be a man if you suckle teats.
Well,
they don't have significant others. They don't know. They don't have trysts or friends or probably family that still own them. All they do is be fan of Star Wars by hate. That's it.
Look at me, be fan of Star Wars by hate. I make video for fan.
Yeah.
Fan love me because hate.
Exactly. It's this ongoing thing where there's other.
Jeez, installment is spelled wrong in this article.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Civil War also says Civil Way.
Okay, there's so many problems. I mean, just talking about it legitimizes something that
it's just. So there's this, and then there's
this
people
is like Darth Jar Jar level,
right? And then there's people like
stuff
like Rebel Force Radio and people like Mike.
Oh no,
and there's
them?
People, no, I'm just saying. And then there's people like Mike Zero who all have these theories that everything is going to be overwritten or everything has to do with a woman being involved.
Rebel Force Radio, give me a
that
break.
A woman is involved. That all the new Star Wars doesn't count and is going to be overwritten because Disney knows what's good for them, and that just every bad take on Star Wars is their platform.
I love how all of these theories, the people communicating the theories, are centered squarely in the right. It's Disney realizes that I'm right, and everything that I want needs to be legitimized.
Yeah. Obviously, when Doomcock wants Star Wars to be the way they want it, we all just jump.
We all bow in front of the Doomcock.
So, one, why? Two, no.
Why?
It is that thing where it's like, I'm such a big fan of it that I hate everything that's been done. Then you're not a fan of it. Just stop. Stop caring. Stop watching it. Stop being a part of it. We don't want you here. Nobody wants you here. You're just being a giant asshole.
I would honestly be interested to know what these people think of High Republic. Something new that isn't what we've had already. Like, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think about that? Is that not Star Wars? All right. If it's not, then get fucked. Go away.
Right. Well, I don't know. The main cover has like a female Jedi front and center, so
there you go.
I assume they're done.
You know the answer now.
Because all of them specifically have a problem with any woman that's been involved in the making of Star Wars. Like, they make a point to call out all of them.
He mentions in the video, in the 3 minutes that we watched, or whatever it was, about how there's no more Wonder Rey. Like, this theory of Rey is just too much.
It's the Mary Sue thing.
She's too powerful.
It's the whole Mary Sue, where everyone just calls Rey a Mary Sue. She's too powerful. How can she do all this?
Everything that she wants is easy to get and all that. Why didn't she make her parents appear? Why didn't she know who she was? I don't know.
Luke was on Dagobah for like a week, and then he does all the Jedi stuff, and he's done. I mean, like that's I don't where, you know.
Yeah, and then he comes back to complete his training, quote unquote, and
Doesn't because his master dies.
yeah, Yoda dies within days.
Right.
I mean, I don't understand. There was a bunch of middle period that we don't know where maybe Obi-Wan would have been talking to him, maybe not. Because it seems like he doesn't really have a close connection to Obi-Wan by the time Empire comes around.
No, Obi-Wan was done with whiny shits. Like
I mean,
him.
he shows up on Hoth and Luke is like, Obi-Wan? What?
Right. Like that was the first time he saw him since he died.
Right. That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
Exactly. I don't.
So, right. I mean,
There was no pleasing these people ever. I mean, obviously, the timeline of the new trilogy was very quick, so they feel, from whatever weird belief they have, that it was like she just knew everything from the start because there was like no, I don't know, maybe because there was no period of learning.
and honestly, setting aside everything that we've talked about Rey's heritage, like Rey's heritage, that's the answer. That's why she is who she is. That's why she can do what she can do. You know?
Right.
I mean, that's assuming that these people accept that this canon.
You mean like
is
Anakin
canon.
was driving he was
Pod
racing
racers?
pod racers, that's the word.
It was driving pod racers. That implies like
The first word that came into my head was lens crafters. So give me a break.
Why?
I don't know why I'm broken. You know, he's out there driving his lens crafters. He's doing his races.
That equals pod racers in your mind.
Man, I'm not that old. In my 30s. I'm pretty sure I have full dementia. And I need to live in a home.
You need to leave your home. That's what you need to do.
I need to be cared for 24/7.
Remember, there's another world
going to
out
hurt
there.
myself. But anyways, he was 8, right? And he's racing pod racers.
Oh,
Racing pod races.
he's racing.
What is the
Well,
term?
he's definitely not driving pod racers because that implies like it's a tractor or something.
He's hauling.
I'm imagining those things that churn soil.
He's hauling pods on his racer.
What are those things called that churn soil that farmers use?
Tiller.
Yeah, like one of those big tilling machines. That's driving a pod
he's
racer.
pod racing, which, as they mentioned, like no human should be able to do that. Reflex wise.
Right.
That's just not a thing a human should be able to do.
Well, I mean, this boy was conjured out of the Force.
Huh?
The Force made
Weird.
him. Well, Rey was made via sex.
We didn't see it.
We didn't see it.
Do we want to?
We can assume.
We don't want to.
Well, that's a different discussion.
That film will be out at some point somewhere, I'm sure.
On some medium. Yes.
Look for my new release on Tuesday. No.
What's that? That's the dad saying it too. Ray's mom.
Oh no. I mean,
No, but she had,
Yes.
I'm saying she had a father and a mother.
sure.
And we assume the natural biological processes happened that
Yeah.
resulted in Rey.
Sure.
So I'm saying it's different situations, but still.
But sure, yes, the raw force creating Anakin is different than Rey, though Rey came from probably one of the most powerful beings, is in the lineage of one of the most powerful
Yes.
force beings ever.
Yes, sure.
So it's not that far off, right? But it's just, again, we can not bitch about an 8-year-old just being a prodigy, but we can't handle a, what is she, 18,
There's
19
so
year
many
old
questions I
woman.
want to ask these people
Right.
that believe these theories. Like, for example, what do you think about Anakin and Anakin's origin?
Right,
Do you think the prequels are legitimate canon or not?
right.
And then, yeah, exactly like you're saying. How does that relate to the new canon. You know,
Right.
The same sort of situation where,
and because these people refer to like Abrams as Jar Jar Abrams, which Doomcock does in his video, I assume they don't like the prequels either. So is there just like one true Star Wars, which is the original trilogy?
Why though?
Using that as a derogatory term.
And that would apply. That's what I'm saying, though. I would want to ask.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I don't know if I could say because they hate the new trilogy, they also hate the prequels. You know, I know it's very popular to hate the prequels, but
for people of a certain age,
which would you could assume that these people fall into that age group, right?
That don't like the prequels.
These purists,
probably, but those are from George. And if their whole thing is talking about George's perfect trilogy or George's perfect vision,
I don't know if I could say whether they enjoyed the prequels or not. I want to have a conversation with someone who legitimately believes this stuff.
Yeah,
that follows these theories and thinks that, you know?
Sure. But the problem is they don't like Star Wars anymore.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I would want to have a conversation with somebody who is a true fan, quote unquote, and has followed Star Wars for as long as like you and I have.
Sure.
But comes to a completely different conclusion about the
what's the rational argument for
these
not being these being less legitimate than anything that came out in the Legends books?
Right. And does it really just boil down to you personally don't like them? Because that's what it seems like all of these theories boil down to.
Exactly.
You don't like the sequels. You had expectations before they were released, and those expectations weren't met. And now,
right.
And now it's all illegitimate. Yeah, I don't know.
Bunch of dummies.
Yeah, this is Darth Jar Jar level stupidity.
Yeah, and something you brought up before we started recording is like, you know, this is an article coming from Newsweek, right? Mm-hmm. And there's misspelling, so it's coming from a very deep level of Newsweek where no one was paying attention. This is like basement. This is boiler room.
This is intern.
Yeah, this is intern submission.
Is COVID intern at the office.
Right. And it's like, because every time literally anyone like a Doomcock, again, what Marvel theories or weirdness that come out ever make it to the news from a person named Doomcock?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what other franchise just takes any little tidbit and it makes it to a story or a blog post on 50 different websites?
Right. Like what I was saying before.
Right, exactly. That's what I was getting at.
Right. Like what I was saying before we were recording. Like, it's like the Star Wars media machine doesn't realize that there can also be tabloids for Star Wars.
Right.
Like anything like this becomes legitimate.
It's on every website. It's on, you know, the comic. It's like on CBR and it's on Newsweek. And
any
it's like,
jerk like Doomcock can put a video on YouTube, say a bunch of shit.
Jerk and Doomcock in the same sentence.
Well, I mean, Doomcock can jerk all over YouTube and result in something like this.
That's what that video was.
And then it gets reported on and speculated on and it spreads. And it's like, what are you guys talking about?
Right.
Think about what you're...
Any little thing makes it to 50 website front pages because some rando jerk off said Star Wars was doing a thing that they liked.
Maybe this reveals how you and I think about Star Wars, which we've talked about so many times, which is this is history to us. Like, this is real. You know, like, to us, it's obvious to think of there's legitimate news and there's illegitimate news, just like in real life.
Right.
There's fake news. Maybe that doesn't occur to other people. You know?
But how?
Well, yeah, right. It confuses me too.
I mean, because you see tabloids and it's, you know, the old, like,
Bat Boy lives again. And you're like, okay. You're not like, Bat Boy.
There are a few people like who live in a filth pit and are hoarders and they're like, oh, Bat Boy.
But you don't see articles on CNN.com saying Bat Boy lives again as reported by
The Sun
or whatever. I don't know. What's a tabloid?
Are there real tabloids anymore? People. Is People a tabloid at this point?
People are tabloid.
No, the magazine.
Oh.
The Cosmo. I don't know. What's a tabloid?
Cosmo Kramer?
10 bat boys to improve your sex life. It is. You were right. The Sun.
You're combining tabloids and teen magazines.
You're right. The Sun. The Sun was a tabloid.
That's a tabloid, right?
Yeah. Inquirer. That's the one I was trying to think of.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like who sees these things with Star Wars, and just everyone just assumes it's like, oh, Uncle Steve had an idea about Star Wars. Guess Disney's doing it.
And like things like Rebel Force Radio are like the Breitbart of Star Wars. You know?
Right, yeah,
like,
exactly. There's a Star Wars,
just awful trolls.
Yes, there's a Star Wars media machine of just tabloids, just like Breitbart and all these other shitty, illegitimate news people that are selling you supplements.
Right.
Right? They're just getting it via YouTube ad revenue.
Right.
They don't have to sell you weird boner pills.
And it's like, it ends up, I don't know. I don't understand how it has any traction at all.
Right.
You know?
For a company as large as Disney, too. Like, it's Disney.
I guess it's the same appeal that tabloids have, where it's like, it's so stupid and ridiculous that people have to talk about it. We're talking about it. You know?
Not because we're entertaining it.
But that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I feel like we're legitimizing it just by mentioning it. Like, we should just ignore it.
Well, yes, we should.
But it makes me angry to see stuff like that, and then to see that people are reporting
It's
on
what we were saying, where it makes me angry because it's literally everywhere. When any random thing, when someone farts out an idea that Disney is doing a thing that will basically lose them billions of dollars by doing, or erase billions of dollars of what they did. Which they don't.
It doesn't erase.
It took this long to change Splash Mountain, guys. They're not gonna reinvent Star Wars anytime soon.
Right.
Splash Mountain should have been changed sooner. I'm not saying that Star Wars should have been changed sooner, but it's not. They're not.
You're drawing the connection that things move slowly if they're going to move at all.
For a company of that size, yes, and also just like we were saying, where it's like there was no gun to a head to make a bad Star Wars. Bob Iger and hundreds of people had a say in what was going to be put out. There were so many people involved in the making and releasing of those films.
Yeah.
That they're not just going to be like, well, Mirror World next. That's not. And they've all been, well, we can't say about the last one because literally no one will talk about it. For the most part, everyone was happy with the other ones. The last one, I'm pretty sure J.J. Abrams is dead.
No?
How are we to know?
He's not dead.
Someone signed a deal with, what was it, WB?
Wasn't it Netflix? Didn't Netflix sign a deal with him too?
No.
To produce a bunch of movies?
He can't do that.
He can't?
No.
Well, J.J. Abrams did Conan O'Brien's podcast recently after the movie came out.
Did you see him on it?
No, that's true. I only heard his voice.
So it could have been any curly-haired man.
They all sound like him. They all sound extremely stressed and anxious. At all times.
Their curls are so tight.
That's why the curls tighten. Because they're so nervous.
I mean, he has never spoken about this film. He made it, and he will never speak about it.
He does seem like he's trying to get through life as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Everything he does.
Oh, yeah, I made Force Awakens. It was really great. Let me tell you all these stories and all these things. And like, I'm gonna go.
Oh, no. And there's next thing. He's being pulled through life on a bungee cord. An invisible bungee cord.
Only when The Force Awakens is mentioned. Or not The Force Awakens. When Rise of Skywalker is mentioned.
No, just in general. Everything he does is like, you have to do it as fast as possible.
Oh, he was announced to be making 3 new shows for HBO Max.
Man, we're both wrong?
He made a 5-year deal with Warner Media, which includes HBO and Warner Brothers Pictures. Because I didn't realize until very recently that HBO was owned by Warner.
Yes. which is how HBO Max exists.
He's making a Justice League Dark show.
Huh, interesting. J.J. Abrams doing comic book stuff. That could be good, actually.
Yeah.
Huh.
Hmm.
Huh.
Then he's doing something called Overlook, and then also something called Duster.
Duster Buster?
Who knows?
Let me say something. You bring up HBO Max. I have watched all of Game of Thrones at this point. I'm not going to go into Game of Thrones.
Okay. I found out what Overlook is.
What's that?
It's
like Overlook Hotel?
Yes.
Really?
Based off the
Is it related to Dr. Sleep at all?
It's based off of The Shining. It's a series about the Overlook Hotel.
Really?
Explores the tales of the Overlook Hotel.
Well.
Oh, JJ, we forgive you.
Disappoint me again, JJ.
He will.
I mean, what were we saying when we learned he was going to do Star Wars? Like, oh, this could be good.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let me say what I was going to say real quick. Not going to get into Game of Thrones. I did finish all of Game of Thrones recently.
He can't read a book, but he can watch.
I can watch 8 seasons, an hour each,
tits.
every episode. Weeks it took me to do this. I'm watching multiple episodes a day. Anyway, after having watched that, after the reaction for the last season, and me realizing how legitimate that reaction was, and how deserved the reaction was to the last season of Game of Thrones, having watched the whole show, I would be all for the DB brothers. They're not brothers, but that's what I call them. The D brothers.
Okay.
The DBs. I'd be all for the DBs.
Why is it even DB? Because
one of David Benioff and DB Weiss.
I guess so.
DB.
They're both DB. Yeah,
one's DB and one's DB.
Sure.
I would be all for them doing something with Star Wars. Because and I said I wasn't going to get into the Game of Thrones, but the show is really good. And the problems with the show are not until the end. And we know you're going to explore.
We've already had Star Wars being okay until the end.
This is true.
We don't need that again.
This is true. I'm just saying, in general, the quality of that show, if we had that quality of writing for a Star Wars TV show, I mean, The Mandalorian is excellent, don't get me wrong. But for some other, place in the Star Wars universe, if we had that from those guys with like a political bent, like we've been talking about,
I
think it would be great.
They had a reference point. They had the writing.
That's true. And when they ran out of the reference point, that's when it went down.
Sucked butt.
Okay. Even more reason to have a I mean, they don't have literal books to work off of. I mean, go watch the Harry Potter movies if you want that. Harry Potter.
Hardy Potter.
Go watch Hardy Potter if you want that. But
I do.
There are constraints here. I guess in the same, I'm talking myself out of it as I'm talking about it. There were constraints in the last season, technically, in that they already had established characters and a setting and everything. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just thinking if we had the quality in the first several seasons of Game of Thrones for Star Wars with like a political theme, I think it would be excellent.
Whether they're involved or not, yes, I agree.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Right? I mean, we've talked about that. Like this whole High Republic series, even before the High Republic was announced, we had basically been talking about having some form of that as a film or series, right?
Yeah.
Having that political, I don't know,
political
side.
Themed something.
And especially with the High Republic being, like we were saying earlier, the period it's in with a very new political, journey for the Republic, for the Jedi, for everything. It's a very interesting period that I think, if we can get anything after, outside of these books after the fact, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just if the quality of that show, Game of Thrones, if it was as high as it was in those early seasons because of these guys, I want them for Star Wars.
Yeah. I wonder how much that was, as they've said, they didn't know what they were talking about or doing. How much it was them surrounding themselves with people that did.
Right. That's I guess
them
that's a whole
actually
other thing
doing
to
it.
consider.
And it'll be interesting once we get the Obi-Wan series as well, because unlike Mandalorian, where that's been a lot of different visions with the same story,
Yeah.
whereas Obi-Wan is going to be Deborah Chow,
A singular vision,
just
yeah.
directing it straight through.
Right. True.
So it'll be just a straight story, which I feel like which I think will feel more like some of those shows.
Where it's more consistent. There's like the Mandalorian had ups and downs and different aspects of it that were great.
Yeah, it was episodic.
Right.
It
felt more like an anthology almost.
Somewhat, yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like Obi-Wan being by one director and writing team, like for the whole thing, I feel like it may feel more like one of those HBO series where it's like, here's a show that basically would have been a movie.
True.
Yeah. You get your 8-hour miniseries or whatever it is, your 6.5 hour with, 45-minute episodes, whatever it is.
Yeah, true.
It was like, here's a thing that could have been a movie, but we had, we wanted to go this route to be able to tell the thing we wanted to tell. I feel like that'll be because The Mandalorian, like you said, is very almost feeling like an anthology where it has very specific types of episodes from specific directors and visions. You can tell
who were chosen for those.
It's not disjointed,
types.
But you can tell that it was like, it was playing
those
a lot of
I should say.
different archetypes of Star Wars in each episode, whereas
Mm-hmm.
having a show that is basically just a miniseries, like a movie, will be very interesting to have, and something
that we've never seen before.
Something we haven't seen before in that form.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that if we ended up getting the distracted people who wrote that last season of Game of Thrones and rushed it for Star Wars, then yeah, that would have been awful.
Right. It just depends on I think it depends on who they surrounded themselves with to make it work up to that point.
Yeah.
Because there were people because like they've even said, they didn't know Game of Thrones. They hadn't read it. They didn't know the story. I mean, they specifically said they didn't know it. So I feel like if they had lore masters or people that knew
George R. R. Martin was the lore master.
And he was involved, right?
Yeah. For at least the early seasons. I don't know about the rest.
They probably had a pretty heavy reference point to. I know they deviated from it here and there.
They combine some characters and storylines and stuff, to make it more straightforward. But I think that kind of stuff is inevitable when you have something
that big,
something as detailed as this Game of. I mean, that even happened in the Lord of the Rings movies, in the original movies, not like The Hobbit, where tons of stuff was condensed in The Hobbit.
We don't talk about that.
But when you have lore that detailed, you kind of have to combine and condense things a little bit.
Right. Until you add another hour and a half to the movie by making an extended edition, and then it's perfect. We were talking about that the other day. I think we probably even said it on the show. There will never be a more perfectly made film than Lord of the Rings.
Really?
From a production standpoint. I feel like you can never reproduce the magic they were able to make with that movie.
Yeah.
Like
I agree with that.
I feel like it's, we've talked, I think we've said this on the show too, just like the behind the documentaries of the making ofs or all the behind the scene footage from the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the extended edition sets. That's like, I've only ever wanted that from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like I've always wanted something that detailed and behind the scenes of the making of Star Wars. And just everyone was having so much fun.
Yeah.
They were so happy all the time, which we don't get from Star Wars because everyone's either being screamed at because they're a woman, or being screamed at because they're a different race, or they're not happy because they got wrote out of the film, or the director disappeared and might be dead.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there's so much drama and everyone, like, no one gets to have fun doing it.
Honestly, the documentaries for Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker were excellent for different reasons because they were completely different situations.
Sure, right.
Which, you know, was kind of what disappointed me about the Rise of Skywalker situation. Everybody coming back and saying how, like, stressed and unfamiliar they felt with Last Jedi because of Ryan and the new crew and everything.
Right.
But the documentaries we got for those were great. And it seemed like people were having fun in both situations or at least
from the edits that they put together to make the documentaries. Sure.
I guess. The Last Jedi felt more unbiased, that documentary.
Yeah.
Less whitewashed,
The other
less
one felt like
Disneyfied.
the other one felt like a campaign for the film. Where it's
Right.
the campaign commercial on TV telling you why you should vote.
It was
for
the
them.
propaganda.
Right. It's the same reason, like, we don't get commentaries or like anything.
We got that from Last Jedi. We got as close as we were going to get
As
to Lord
close
of
as
the
we're
Rings
going
level.
to get to the Lord of the Rings level of someone caring so much about what they made.
That's the ticket.
Right.
You have to care about the movie you're making in order
Yeah.
to invest the time.
You're not
to
shitting
to
out
do
a
that.
check
Right.
as a film. Before you get bungeed away to the next big...
I got to finish making this check.
You're not being bungee pulled away to your next giant budget film that makes god awful amounts of money.
Right. Which is
Instead, you're making
your mediocre giant budget film.
Right.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. One day people will love Star Wars again, just like us. There's got to be someone out
Now,
there.
do you see the difference in what we're saying versus what Doomcock's saying?
We're complaining, but then we're like, yeah, we like Star Wars.
But it's Star Wars. I mean, the new canon is the new canon, and we're here to accept it, and we're here to embrace the things about it that matter and try to ignore the things that don't.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, even Last Jedi. Talk about this movie all the time about how much we love it. And there's still the Mary Poppins scene.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I can get over it.
I don't like it. I understand why it was there and the context for it and what it was trying to communicate. That Leia was strong in the Force in a way that maybe wasn't communicated in other movies.
Sure.
But I don't like it.
Yeah. My son watches Minecraft YouTubers and I still love him. I mean,
that's the same thing.
Sometimes bad stuff happens. But if you love a thing,
but you're not out there making YouTube videos about how your son should be canceled and erased from history.
Not yet.
Not yet. We'll see. He's got some time.
Depending on the next YouTuber he finds, we'll see. It's bad.
I don't let my son know what computers are. So that doesn't happen in my house.
You guys should have seen the distance learning for school during COVID. It was just him with a piece of bark.
He had to stand with a computer behind him with a mirror in front of his face. He couldn't look directly at it. When he sees me working from home, he asks me what the glowing tablet is.
Papa, what is this window that you are working on?
Is this where you receive your commandments, Father?
This window doesn't have the same picture as the other window.
Father, what sorcery is this?
Are you raising him like a Harry Potter wizard? Like those other people?
Oh, God. This world needs to end.
Well, much like this world needing to end, so should this episode.
That's true. What we're saying is the world will end when this episode does.
Star Wars will end when this world ends. And no Doomcock's going to stop it.
We can count on.
Right. All right. Well, if you enjoy the podcast, please go to YouTube or anywhere else that allows you to rate and review podcast episodes and do so. If you want to contact us, you can reach us at Hokey Podcast
on Twitter.
On Twitter.
You almost said email.
I got the title right this time, but not the location. One day it'll all come together. at Hokey Podcast on Twitter. You can also hit us up via email.
Ask Lobot.
AskLobot at hokeyReligion.com.
Oh, Lord, this show needs to end. We need to be done.
How do we contact ourselves? I don't know. I don't contact us. No one else contacts us. What am I supposed to remember these things for?
Every day I email AskLobot at hokeyReligion.com.
And then I hit the spam button and make you go away.
No.
That's what I do when we receive any email. Didn't you know? Yeah. So do that, and I don't have anything else. I think.
Review us on iTunes.
I said that.
No, you didn't. Did
I
you?
did.
Review us on Spotify.
Can you do that?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't have Spotify.
Start a podcast. And
Talk about us.
and have an episode where you review us. Are there podcast reviewing podcasts?
Oh, God. There's gotta be, right?
Yeah, there certainly has to be like the top 10.
There's that guy on Twitter.
Podcast.
There's that guy on Twitter that used to shit on us all the time. That all he does is review podcasts. Apparently, he does nothing. He serves no purpose except to review podcasts and tell people what and what not to listen to.
Who cares?
Remember that guy?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll never forget. My crippling depression and anxiety will never allow me to forget. Well,
that was the end of the show. We should probably
at some point it ends. Thank you for listening to this episode. Hopefully something else Star Wars related happens between now and the next episode. It likely won't, and we'll probably ramble.
I will
for a
say,
long time.
I really like this desperate feeling for every episode now, where we start an episode.
See, that's how we end up with Ron Jon and Bron Jon and Ray Jon.
That's true.
If we had too much Star Wars to handle, we would never make ourselves laugh while everyone else just grins and bears it.
Sometimes not even grins.
And sometimes they just turn it off and they don't have to bear it.
There's a way to not bear it?
Who's to know? Well,
this has been Hokey Religion for another episode. My name is Michael.
I'm also a Tyler. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hokey religion is an ancient weapon. Weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side.